Anyway, I digress. Let's go ahead and wrap up the show with what I like to call garbage time. Before we get to garbage time, you know what I want to ask you guys to do. If you're out there, please go ahead and subscribe to LouieTeeNetwork for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also, it's 190 of you out there, only 40 likes. Please hit the like button. Show your man some love, man. Please like the video. All right. With that said, I got one thing I want to talk about as we leave this program, and we'll talk Super Bowl on Wednesday and Friday. So don't worry. We've got all week to talk about the Super Bowl. But I do want to go back to this trade. That's the big story, of Monday. I told you it was going to be. I told you you're going to hear about it from all the media outlets on, Saturday night and Sunday. But all the big media shows aren't, the ESPNs, the Fox Sports ones, they're not going to be able to get to it till Monday. So you're going to hear about this again on Monday. So I'm going to go ahead and say my last piece on this situation, and then we'll move on Wednesday. And I got a tweet from my man at Hawk_Kid94, my man Sean Hawk. All right. My man Hawk, who tweeted me and wrote, "Do you think the Stafford trade scared some teams away from getting Watson?" Good question. We talked about the ramifications of the Stafford trade and what this might mean for a Watson deal now. Like, wow, if the Lions got this for Stafford, what do you think the Texans are going to get for Watson if they ultimately decide to finally pull the trigger on the trade? And John McCain of the Houston Chronicle, who is as plugged in a beat reporter and beat writer for an NFL team as there is around the league. There are guys and gals out there, there are men and women who are just synonymous with specific organizations. You think of the Browns, I think of Mary Kay Cabot. She's plugged in. When she says something regarding the Browns, I listen, because 95% of the time she's spot on. She's plugged in. I think that percentage goes up to about 97, 98% when you're talking about John McClain in the Houston Texans. Like, this guy's as dialed in as any beat reporter around the league covering a team. I mean, he just gets it for the Texans. So when he says Stafford trade doesn't impact a potential Watson trade, Texans still want 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 young defensive starters. That's where they're sitting at right now. Could that change? You're damn right it could change. To me, that's where the discussion starts. They're not going to just say, hey, I got 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 young defensive players from this team, so I'm not listening to any other deals. No, you take that offer, you run it to somebody else, you say, hey, look, this is what they're offering. They're giving me 2 1s, 2 2s. They're giving me 2 really good young defensive players on rookie contracts. Can you beat that? Can you match it? You got something better? What do you got? You got 3 1s, 2 2s, and 2 defensive starters? Okay, I'll take that deal instead. Like, this doesn't have to be the deal, but this is the template right here. He's saying nothing has changed. If they decide to move Watson, they're still looking for 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 defensive starters. Young defensive starters, let me say that. Young is the pivotal word here, because young implies I want them on rookie deals. I told you guys that from the jump. I told you guys that before this deal was even a thing, that they're going to want a guy on a rookie contract. And they're going to want a really good, they don't want your 5th round pick on a rookie deal. I talked about this. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but I've talked about this a million times about how everyone's trying to offer up some random guy that they don't want anymore, some aging veteran or some guy that they think is good, but they don't really want to pay that guy anymore, and they're trying to throw him into a deal with the Texans. They don't want your shit, okay? They don't want your garage and yard sale items. They're not looking for that. They don't want the shit that you're trying to get rid of. Hey, yeah, go put that outside on the front yard and put $5.99 on that. Yeah, they don't want that. They want the stuff that's in the house that you're not trying to sell. That's the stuff that they want. Hey, how much for that vase over there? That's not for sale. Well, then you don't want my money. That's the stuff that they want. They want the good stuff inside. They want the good merchandise. They don't want your stuff that's on the yard that you're trying to give away. Stop trying to throw that shit in the deal. They don't want it. So, I talked about this with somebody else. I said one of the biggest non-Lions and Rams ancillary takeaways is what this trade does for the Deshaun Watson market. That was, to me, the biggest ancillary non-Rams and Lions takeaway for me is, what does this do to the value of Deshaun Watson if Stafford is worth 2 1s and a 3? Well, listening to John McCain, it doesn't do anything. Now, I think that's false. I think it does do something to his value. Because if I'm the Texans and I see what they just fetched for 33-year-old Matthew Stafford, I'm saying I got 25-year-old Deshaun Watson. Are you crazy? I'm not just taking two 1s. The Lions just got 2 1s. I'm doing better than that. I'm treating this like a player negotiation contract where they say, hey, Derek Carr just got X amount of dollars. I'm better than Derek Carr. I should get X amount of dollars more than him. I've been to 3 Pro Bowls and I've been an all-pro in this league. I shouldn't be making comparable money to Derek Carr. I need more than that. That's how I would treat this. No different. Hey, that's Matthew Stafford. No disrespect to Matthew Stafford, but he doesn't even have a playoff win in his career. He's 33 years old. No, I got a 25-year-old stud that's on his way to being a Hall of Fame player. No. I don't get 2 1s like the Lions got for Matthew Stafford. No. I get 3 or I get 4 for Deshaun Watson. That's how I would treat this. Now, they want to keep it respectable because they don't want to scare people off. They don't want to scare teams off. So they're keeping a number at a mod. But to me, that's where you start. That's where you start the deal. If you're smart in negotiations, you start way higher than where you ultimately want to be. You don't start at what you think will get the deal done. If you're the Texans, you put this astronomical number because, hey, they can only say no, right? Because you don't know what someone's willing to pay. If you tell them all you got to do is pay 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 defensive starters, then that's all they're going to pay. Something is only worth what someone is willing to pay. You got to make them pay more. If they're willing to settle, then they're dummies. And look, the Texans have been dummies before, but that was the old organization and administration. I'm going to give Nick Caserio and the rest of these guys an opportunity to prove that they're not dummies, that they're not Bill O'Brien, that they're not just going to settle. If, in fact, they have to trade Deshaun Watson, I still surmise that they won't. And we'll have another conversation another day about where the leverage is, because a lot of people seem to not think that the Texans have leverage here, and they do. However, someone brought up a great point, and we'll talk about that on a podcast to be named later. However, if I'm the Texans, there's no way I'm taking 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 defensive starters. That's not enough for Deshaun Watson. You're selling yourself short. Not after what the Lions just fetched for Matthew Stafford. To me, there should be a direct correlation. Hey, I'm not saying it, and everybody's different, and the Rams were willing to pay more than anybody else was. Good. Let's see if somebody's willing to pay. I remember Josina Anderson's tweet, and it said that the Lions were in a situation where a Matthew Stafford deal was imminent. They were going to trade him, but they're trying to hold out to see if there was some dummy out there willing to overpay. That was the tweet. And I quickly responded to that because my Washington football team was in the mix. And if this was the old regime, they would have been dummies. And I tweeted out, goal, don't be those dummies. Or don't be that dummy that overpays. Don't be that guy. Don't be that team. We don't have to do anything here. Don't be that team. If I'm the Texans, I'm looking for that team. To me, it's like the water boy at the very end. When they're looking for that onside kick and the kicker's looking down the list and looking at all those players, and he's looking and he finds the one guy shivering. He says, oh yeah, there's my bitch. That's what I'd be doing if I'm the Texans. I'm looking at all these teams that are interested, and I'm trying to find out which one is the most desperate. Where's the team that's willing to give me 4 first-round picks? Where's the team that's willing to give me 3 1s, 3 2s, a 3, and a defensive starter? Where's that team? That's what I'm looking for. And somebody's out there. I think it's Carolina. Somebody's out there willing to overpay so that they can make sure that they win this auction. And if I'm the Texans, that's what I'm out to get. That's what I'm after. I'm not looking to just settle for 2 1s, 2 2s. Like, no, this isn't a, hey, let's be nice. Let's not overcharge here. Let's not price gouge. No, this is your one shot. You don't get to do this again. You don't even want to do this. If for no other reason, I don't want to do this, so you got to pay, because I don't want to do this. I don't want to trade Deshaun Watson. I had no intentions when I signed him to this extension last year. I had no intentions. I knew that our cap situation was shit. I knew our draft capital situation was to hell in a handbasket. I knew all those things when I signed him to the extension last year. I knew he was going to be a part of the fix. He wasn't a part of the problem. He was a part of the solution. So I don't want to do this. But if I have to, you got to pay for it. Somebody's got to pay, because I'm doing something that I don't want to do. So I'm going to make it hell on you. This isn't one of those situations where you go, well, I don't want to move the needle so far that the next time a team comes around and has to do one of these deals, they're going to look at the Deshaun. To hell with that. That's not my problem. It's not my problem. Just like when a player gets paid, they're trying to move the needle up. They want the next guy to make an inordinate amount of money because it's good for the next guy. They're out to help each other. But in that short term, they're really trying to help themselves. They're not worried about moving the needle along for the next safety that comes along. When Landon Collins signed his deal, he wasn't thinking about, well, if I get, $18 million a year or $16 million a year, that's going to allow Tyrann Mathieu and Earl Thomas to get 16 as well. I'm helping my fellow man. To hell with them. He was worried about himself getting the best deal he could get. But in the process, you are helping your fellow man. The Texans are kind of doing it in reverse if they take a deal like this. Like, oh, I don't want the league to think that you gotta, overpay for one of these guys. I don't want this situation to go out of control. Because they think, these owners think like that. These owners think like that. Where I don't want to overpay for a coach, because I don't want the next coach that we got to go woo from the collegiate ranks to think, hey, this is the going price. This is what you paid Matt Rule. This is what I should get. Well, that's why Carolina doesn't give a shit. Their ownership doesn't care. David Tepper doesn't give a shit about what the NFL norms are. He wants to win, and he wants to win now. And I think you can get a team like Carolina or the Jets, who don't know anything about winning in the last decade. I think you can get one of those teams to be like, you know what? Yeah, I'll do that. Sounds better than the alternative of just trying to wait to see if we can get a Deshaun Watson. Why the hell not? I'm not saying. I'm just saying. If I'm the Texans, the Stafford deal didn't scare teams. I don't think, Sean Hawk, if you're out there. Excuse me. I don't think it scared teams away. It should make them a little leery of what the price might be now. But if the Texans are still out here singing that for 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 defensive starter song, then you're not scared at all. And maybe that's why they're still singing that same tune, if in fact they're singing that tune at all. Maybe that's why they're still singing it, because they don't want to scare off potential suitors. You want to get somebody invested first. If it's too rich for their blood before they even get invested, then they're out. You got to suck them in first, make them feel a part of the race like they got a legitimate chance, and then maybe you get them to do something irrational. But you got to get them in first. You got to suck them in and make them feel a part of this race. So, I don't know. We'll see. But I do have a couple super chats before we get out of here. And so I do want to go ahead and take that. But that'll do it for garbage time. Let's get to a few of these super chats so I can get out of here and let you guys go about your day. Got one here from Calvin Krim. Thank you for the super chat, Calvin Krim. Greatly appreciate you. My man Calvin writes, hey, Lou, if Washington wants to move up in the draft to grab a QB, how far up could they realistically go packaging up 2 first-rounders? Love your show. It just all depends. You'd have to go and pull up um, the old Jimmy Johnson draft point system chart. I'm gonna pull it up for you real quick, and we can talk about that. Let's get the draft value chart up, and we'll take a look at this thing and see what Washington's first round pick of 19 is worth this year. So Washington's pick this year is worth 875 points. So theoretically speaking, if you wanted to get up to, say, you said 2 first rounders, so that would mean this year's first rounder and next year's. Let's just assume that a first round pick is worth 1,200 points. Let's just throw that out there. Let's go with 1,000. What the hell? 1,000 is a nice round number. Let's just say, because we don't know the value of that pick, because we don't know where that team's going to fall next year. Let's just assume a first round pick is worth 1,000 points. Washington would then have 1,875 points to operate with. And again, context is everything. If you're coming up to select a quarterback, forget about the draft chart. That team's going to try to gouge you. I mean, they're going to absolutely try to force you to give it up because they know what you're coming up to get. It's a little bit different when it's a receiver or it's a cornerback or a linebacker. They're not going to hurt you as bad because you may be desperate, but you're not that desperate. For a quarterback, they know this is big stuff. Like, you really love this guy, and I'm allowing you to come up and get him. You're going to have to compensate me for that. So 1,875 points is good enough to get you all the way up to number 4 at Atlanta. Anything south of that, you can get up to wherever you need to go. So if you give them 19 this year and a first rounder next year, you can probably get as high as from 4 all the way to where Washington is in the draft. Now, obviously, it's not going to take, as you get further down the list, it's not going to take 2 first rounders. But if we were just packaging up, and that was your scenario, 2 first round picks, you'd be able to get up to number 4. 2 first rounders at where Washington isn't good enough to get up to 3, 2, or 1. You're in a totally different stratosphere when you start talking about the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st pick. But you can get to number 4. That's 1,800 points at number 4. So technically speaking, if Atlanta was willing to move back to 19, you could get to number 4. Atlanta's not looking to do that. But you could get to Cincinnati at 5. And to me, that's where the real draft begins. I don't think anybody in the top 4 is moving anywhere. Not a single soul. Maybe Miami. You could coax them out of number 3. But I think they want to draft the best, fill in the blank, whether it's receiver or this or that. They want to draft the best available in the draft because the first 2 picks are going to be quarterbacks. They know that. So they're going to have the best of whatever else is left at every other position. They get to pop the top. So Miami's not coming out of 3 and Atlanta's not coming out of 4. I think where you could see some movement is 5, 6, 7. I don't think Cincinnati's leaving 5 because they need to protect Joe Burrow. So they want to take potentially the first tackle off the board. If at all possible, they get the pick of the litter of all the tackles. They need to protect Joe Burrow. We saw what happened to him last year. They can't afford to not start to protect him. So I don't know if Cincinnati's willing to move out of 5, but then you get to 6 and 7. That's where things get interesting. Philadelphia at 6, Detroit at number 7, because you got to get in front of Carolina if you want a quarterback. That's, again, dominoes could fall before the draft and Carolina could already have somebody. But if we're just going off of the assumption that they don't have a quarterback, they want someone, you've got to assume that you've got to get in front of Carolina at 8 to get a quarterback. And maybe the new assumption needs to be, hey, you probably got to get in front of Detroit at 7 just to be safe. Because we don't know what the hell the Lions are doing at 7. They're telling everybody, oh, we got our guy, while they're trying to throw everybody off the trail. And all the while, they're out here scouting quarterbacks, and they're going to take a guy at 7. That could be the case. So, in your scenario, you package up 2 first rounders. You can get probably as high as number 4 if you wanted to. You can't get any higher than that, though. You would have to add more in the mix. And if I'm the Falcons at number 4, and I know you're coming up for a quarterback, I'm probably going to ask you for more than just this year's first, next year's first. It might be next year's first and next year's 3rd or 4th, something like that. But Thank you for the super chat, Calvin Krim. You see where I'm going with that. Protect Sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my man. Protect Sports writes, Goff got dumped like cheating an ex-girlfriend. It's amazing how he went from a Super Bowl caliber quarterback just 3 years ago to a guy that they couldn't wait to get rid of. I mean, they just, wow. Life comes at you fast, man. It really, really does. If you're Jared Goff. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. King of the North writes, I was talking crazy when I said 5 firsts for Watson. Getting a few years worth of high draft picks and a few good players is better for a quick rebuild. Yeah, you were tripping when you said 5. You was like, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Nobody else wants to say it. It's the unthinkable. I'm going to just say it. They're going to get 5. I'm like, nah, that's a lot. Like, you're talking about a half decade worth of first round picks. Not too many teams are going to, I don't think any team is going to sign up for that. That's too much for Deshaun Watson. Yeah, he's a hell of a player, but again, I've talked about this. You got to draw the line somewhere. And 5 first round picks, you got to draw the line. Because you're losing the ability to get a guy under contract for 5 years when you do that. When you give up a first round pick, when you don't select a guy in the first round, you're losing the ability to get cheap labor on an elite football player for 5 years. Because you could get lucky in the second or the third or the fourth and get a guy that's going to be a pillar for your football team. But that's 4-year contract. He's looking, after the 3rd year, he's looking for new money. He doesn't even want to play out that last year of his deal. You don't want him to get to that last year of his deal. So essentially, you're only getting 3 years of service before you got to re-up that guy. Like after next year, Terry McLaurin is going to want a new deal. And if you're Washington, you want to do a new deal with Terry McLaurin after his 3rd season. You don't want him to get to that 4th year and close to free agency. So when you don't have a first round pick, you lose the ability to control a player for 5 years. That's big. That's why teams trade back into the end of the first round to get a quarterback like a Lamar Jackson, because you want that guy under contract with that 5th year option if necessary. You want to stretch that thing out as long as possible. That's why you see teams willing to move out of the first round and other teams dying to get back in, because you want to have that opportunity to keep that guy for 5 years if need be. Like in the case of a Montez Sweat, if Washington doesn't think they can re-sign Montez Sweat, that extra 5th year is great, because if they know in their mind, we can't afford to sign him and Chase. And I don't think they're going to be able to. Let's be honest with each other. Both of those are $100 million contracts when you're talking defensive ends. So in their mind, at least they're going to get that extra year. If they know they're not going to be able to re-sign Montez, and hell, they could even franchise tag him. If they think they're really close, they could franchise tag him for 1 additional year. And that's 6 years. And then they say, okay, we got all we could get out of Montez. He'll have to get his money somewhere else. We got to pay Chase Young now. At least you have that opportunity to do that. When you don't have a first round pick, you don't have that opportunity. Do you know how tough it is to maneuver around when you don't have that 5th year option on a guy that's supposed to be one of your better players? It's tough. It really is. So nobody's giving up 5 first round picks. I don't think anybody's giving up 4, but 3 is really doable. And if you push the envelope far enough, maybe you'll get a dummy to give you 4. Maybe. But I think they'd be more content with 3 first rounders, 2 seconds, and 2 defensive starters. That to me is a great haul for Deshaun Watson. It makes a ton of sense. I don't want to pay that. I wouldn't pay that. But if someone did, I understand. I get it. But if I'm the Texans, I'm not making it easy on you. Like, I heard that if they were to proceed with the Jets, they want Quinnen Williams. The Jets are like, you can't have Quinnen Williams, man. Well, that's the kind of player that they're looking for. That's exactly what they want. Which is why I keep saying if you're Washington, they're going to want Montez Sweat. You're not giving them Chase Young. So they're going to like, I know you ain't giving us Chase Young. We're not even going to ask for him. That's like somebody calling us 6 years ago and asking us for J.J. Watt. We wouldn't have even, we'd have laughed him off the phone and then hung up. So we're not even going to ask you for Chase Young, but we are going to ask you for Montez Sweat. I'm going to laugh you off the phone and I'm still going to hang up on you. Okay? You're not getting Montez Sweat. If they're doing business with the 49ers, they're not going to just say, hey, all right, We'll take your linebacker. He's pretty damn good. The linebacker from BYU. I like him a lot. No, they're not going to take him. They're saying, we want him, and I want Nick Bosa. The 49ers like, whoa, wait a minute. What? Do you know what we're talking about? We're talking about 25-year-old Deshaun Watson. You heard what I said. I want your linebacker, and I want Nick Bosa. That's why I said I got to draw the line somewhere. But you're right. First and seconds, they are the way to a quick rebuild. If you want to be greedy and get a bunch of firsts, it's a slower process because you're not getting as many guys. If you're getting 4 guys every year in the first and second round, so 2 in the first, 2 in the second, for the next 3 years, next 2 years, that's how you fast track this thing. If you're getting 4 guys in the first 2 rounds, think about that. 2 elite players in the first round and then 2 secondary elite players in the second round. If you hit on all of those guys 3 years in a row, and let's just say you get 3 1s and 2 2s. So that means you would have, in aggregate, if you hit, you would have 4 guys in the first and second round, 4 more guys the next year in the first and second round. That's 8. And then you would have 10, because you have 2 more in the first round the next year. 10 players that you're hoping are home runs for you in a 3-year stretch. Not to mention whatever else you do in the draft. That's how you rebuild quickly. Now, if you want to go the greedy route and you just want a bunch of first round picks, it's just 1 guy. Now, you get a pick too, so it's 2 guys, but it's not the same as, 2 2s and 2 1s. You would still get your guy plus their guy, and then you would have your second round pick. So it's 3, but it's not 4. It's not after 2 years, it's not 8, it's just 6. It's different, So there's a lot to talk about. It's a lot to consider, but I tell you what, man, it's fascinating stuff regardless.
LouieTeeNetwork.